Hello, and welcome to Verbling. I'm teacher Oakley, and for this week, well, the next consecutive 5 days here on Verbling at verbling.com, we are going to be looking at and practicing the IELTS speaking exam. All right. This is the schedule for this little series of classes. In today's class, we will discuss, first of all, the format. Secondly, we are going to be examining the scoring criteria. We'll take a look at the official Cambridge scoring rubric and examining that and talking about it. And today we'll also, I'll be going over some tips, main tips, general tips for attacking the entire quiz. The following few days, tomorrow's class at the same time. Okay, this is 5 days, the same exact time. Tomorrow we'll concentrate on class 1, on task 1 or part 1 of the test, then part 2, then part 3, and then we'll collectively do an entire exam. So that is the plan for the next 5 days. Again, today being basically kind of an introduction, we may throw out a few practice questions here and there to illustrate various points. But because today is basically an introduction, I urge students in the class to please, any questions whatsoever in any way relevant to IELTS or compared to TOEFL or anything you have a question about, please don't be shy about asking me questions that will really help me, and hopefully it will help you to understand how this test works. That's basically our mission today, is to understand what we're trying to accomplish when you're taking this exam. All right, let me welcome students to the class. Check the microphones and we'll get started. Hello, Christian.
Yes, good afternoon again. How are you today?
I'm still good, although it's evening where I am. Good evening to you, Christian. Okay, welcome. Nice to see you again. All right, Gina has joined us. Hi, Gina. How are you?
Hi. I'm fine, thanks.
Great. Nice to have you with us. Senia has also joined us. Hi, Senia.
Hello.
Hello. Hello again. Welcome back. Okay, Anna Carolina is here. Hi, Anna.
Hi, teacher. Nice to see you.
Likewise. Yes. I heard an
because I sent you a message on the Google chat box.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, I wish somebody would contact me regarding that on my tutor page. Just send me a message, because I don't even know anything about it. Okay, well, there you go. Well, thank you. Okay. Thank you for that. Okay. All right. I'll take a look at that and decide what I decide. All right. Mustafa has also joined us. Hi, Mustafa.
Hi. Hello. How are you?
I'm still doing pretty good. Thank you. Okay. First of all, wide open to the class. Who has taken the IELTS exam before?
Not me.
Christian?
No.
Not me. Okay, not me. Oh, I just heard me. Not me. Okay, Anna Carolina hasn't, but she's looking forward to. Has anybody taken it before? Senior? Gina? Mustafa? No? None of you guys?
No.
Okay. No. Okie doke. All right. Bunch
Is
of
it easy to
virgins.
take the exam, or we have some difficulties to take this? How can we approach the IELTS exam?
Okay. Is it okay? Let me share a little bit of my opinion with you, Mustafa. And please take this into account. This is my opinion only. All right.
Yes.
Not officially sanctioned by Cambridge, Oxford, or Verbling. This is opinion of Oakley. Okay, look, dude and dudettes. It's like this. I took this exam. Let me share my personal experience just a little bit. I took this exam. I was working in an academy, an English second language academy. We had like 100 students in dormitories and cafeteria and all this kind of thing. And students took 7-8 classes a day, you know, like the school. All right, the academy paid for me to take the IELTS exam. And I thought, oh, I'm an English teacher. I'm a native-born American citizen. Of course I can ace this test. Not a problem. I teach English. Guess what happened, Mustafa?
I think that you didn't get high marks.
I think you're right. I got decent marks, okay? Basically, the scoring works on what are called band scores, and you score even or 0.5 half numbers from 0, and nobody gets 0. But from 0 up to 9 would be a perfect score. Level band score of 9 would be perfect. And we're going to talk about the scoring a great deal today. All right. You know, I thought I was going to ace it and get all 9s, but there are 4 aspects of this test, as most of these academic English assessment exams, most of them have these same 4 elements, which are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. All right. I took the exam, and basically I did pretty well, but overall I got like a 7.5. I totally blew the listening test because I didn't know how to take the test. I did really well in speaking, writing, and reading, you know. Okay, I got like 8s. I did really well in speaking. Okay. Even though I'm an English teacher, I'm educated, and I'm an American citizen, I could not ace this test because I didn't know how to take the test. What I can tell you, how easy is it to take the test? Well, it's very easy. You just pay your money and you go. Have some identification and you go. So it's quite easy to take it, but is it easy to do well? You have to learn how to take the exam. You really do. You have no choice. I would strongly urge anybody who's very serious about it to do a good, solid 3 months of study before you take the exam. Okay? I myself, after that first sort of embarrassment, frankly, was a little embarrassing. But I wasn't the only one. I wasn't the only teacher in my school who took the exam, and none of us aced the test. So the school paid for a program of 64 hours of classroom time with an actual IELTS certified instructor, somebody who actually was an administrator or interlocutor in the IELTS exam. This person taught us 64 hours of classroom time and gave us a ton of homework. So it wasn't just 64 hours, it was double that to triple that somewhere around 150 hours of study time that I put into it. After that, I took the exam again, and yes, I aced it. But before that, there's no way, and there's no way I could have. There's no way anyone could have. You have to learn the test.
So we have rules and tricks to to pass the exam?
Yeah. Well,
Rules.
okay. You have rules, of course. Yeah, actually every question has its own rules, and yeah, you have to understand two things, and I'm not just talking about speaking, but the whole test. You have to understand what they want. What are they actually scoring you on? What are they looking for? Not what do you think is good English, but what are they looking for? If you follow me. And secondly, you have to understand that they're going to try to trick you, Mustafa. They're the reading, the listening, and even aspects of speaking and writing have traps, trap answers, trick questions. All right? Designed to fool you, to get you to make a mistake, to give you a camouflage answer, one that looks really good, but it's not. I tell all my students, it's not only learning about, the format and what they're looking for, it's also equally learning about what are the tricks, what are the traps, what are things to watch out for, how to take the test. You see?
Yeah.
When you get really good at these exams, what you're doing, you're not even thinking, oh, this is the most logical answer based on the English language I know. Instead, you're going, oh, answer A is a trick. Answer B is like a half answer. Answer C is the opposite of what they mean. Answer D, that's the answer. You're generally finding your answers by process of elimination and seeing what is left in reading and listening. Okay?
Yeah.
And speaking, you just have to know what they're looking for. I will elaborate. First of all, let me explain the basic format of the test. The entire exam consists of those 4 parts. You will take the exam starting with listening, takes about 40 minutes, and then reading, it's an hour, and then writing, it's an hour. You will, generally speaking, although I had a student today, as a matter of fact, this wasn't true, but everyone else, your speaking test will be on a different day so you have to go 2 separate days, normally. Your speaking test will be held on a different day. The speaking test is 13 minutes in total of recorded speaking time. Okay. And each of them you're going for those band scores again. Now the speaking exam is 13 minutes in total. You're recorded. You're actually speaking to one other person, the interlocutor or interviewer. The interlocutor, okay, how your exam goes to a large degree depends on, throw the dice, depends on what kind of interviewer you get. You might get a very stone-cold, stern interviewer who will never show any emotion on their face and will just ask you the question in a somewhat robotic monotone. And heaven help you if you get one of those. They're kind of brutal. Because your job is to speak as natural English as you can. If you wave your arms around like I do when I'm talking to you, then you should wave your arms around in the test. The object is not to sound brilliant or be funny or sound like a professor. The object is to sound as much like a native speaker as possible. And that includes things like pausing, like I just did. Things like, oh my God, using expressive intonation, using your hands if you use your hands when you speak. The object is to sound like a native speaker. That's it. So it's hard to do that when you're talking to a robot, But a lot of times you get an interviewer who will do little things. They're not supposed to, but sometimes they do little things like nod their head. Okay, That means you're doing good. They might even give you a little hand signal. I need more. You got to say more. You want a good score, you got to say more. They're not going to say that out loud, but they'll give you gestures and movements. Well, I apologize if I offend anyone, Anna Carolina. Oh, I said, oh my gosh, didn't I? Sorry. I don't. Sorry. Okay. In any case, okay. In any case, the exam is 3 parts, 13 minutes. The first part is 4 to 5 minutes. You will be. It's basically like a It's basically like a conversation between you and the interviewer. All right. You're just talking. He's asking you questions about topics which anyone can talk about. Books, music, travel, work, school, ordinary things, writing letters, riding a bicycle, taking care of children. Okay. The topics are endless, really, everyday things, everything in life. They will not talk about anything too controversial such as religion, sexuality, or politics. So those are off the board. But basically everything else you might talk about just ordinarily can be a topic. So, okay, and let me just say that is, in my view, again, my opinion here, just my opinion, some people try to study topics so they can learn suitable vocabulary and maybe they'll get a topic that they practice. In my view, in my perspective, that's just crazy because they're always adding new topics and they're morphing or changing they're changing the old topics to different types of questions. So it's kind of pointless to study topics. Anna Carolina, you have a question?
Yes. Do you think it's a great idea to use expressions such as "oh my gosh" or something like that? Because I'm not sure. I think some people don't like it when you say oh my gosh. I think it might lead to some misinterpretations or
No.
it might appear somehow offensive.
No. I don't know. I understand. I do understand. I'm a native speaker who lives in the Philippines, and Anna Carolina brought up that saying "oh my God" might offend people. It's actually, I have experienced that before, living in the Philippines, where it does offend people. However, your job in the IELTS test is to sound like a native speaker. And you know what? "Oh my God" does not offend anyone who's a native speaker. So don't worry about it. It's only non-native speakers that get offended by that. Really, it's absolutely ordinary. It's something you would hear on television. As long as you'd hear it on television in England or Canada or Australia or America, it's perfectly okay to say. Use that as your yardstick, you know. If you've seen it on a TV show, then it's perfectly okay. Absolutely. Now, I wouldn't be throwing any F-bombs out there, if you know what I mean, but if you want to use the word F-bomb, yes. And we're going to get to that a little later when we talk about the scoring. As a matter of fact, Anna Carolina, that kind of colloquial expression is a fundamental part of the scoring. If you want a top score, you must do that in reality. You must use idiomatic colloquial language in order to get 7, 8, 9 band score in vocabulary. You have to. And if you're using expressions like "oh my gosh," "OMG," I couldn't believe it, you're using higher level intonation. Native speakers talk this way. Again, you don't have to worry about offending anyone when you're taking the IELTS exam. You're not going to offend anyone. You can pretty much say anything you want because, again, I can't overemphasize, they're not interested in the content at all. They're interested in the way you speak English. They could care less if you're so boring that you put them to sleep. They don't care. You don't get a better score if you're funny and entertaining. It doesn't matter. If you're a genius or an idiot, it would make no difference on your IELTS exam. None. It has nothing to do with the test. The test is actually the way you speak English. Nothing about your content. Okay, back to the format. First part. There's 3 parts. First part, 4 to 5 minutes. Basically, it's a conversation. Part 2, this is the only part of the exam where you will be timed. They will give you a card with a question so that you can write notes. They'll give you a paper and a pencil, and they'll allow you to make notes for 1 minute, 60 seconds. And then they'll ask you to speak, and you should speak for, here's one of their little tricks. They'll say, please speak for 1 to 2 minutes. In reality, if you speak for 1 minute and stop, you're going to lose points. You'll lose score. No question. Just speak for 2 minutes and make the interviewer stop you. They tell you the instructions in different parts of the test. They'll tell you instructions which, in fact, either you should ignore or maybe do the opposite, frankly. In the listening test, when they say review your answers, that's pointless. You should start previewing the next possible questions. It's pointless to review your answers. Sometimes their instructions are traps. Okay, there's an example. When they say speak 1 to 2 minutes, they really mean speak for 2 minutes if you want a good score. Okay, that's part 2. So that part 2 only takes the 3 minutes plus a little bit of extra administrative time. And the final part is 5 to 6 minutes, and that is basically their opinion-based questions. IELTS calls it the discussion segment, but it's not really discussion. I call it the opinion section because they're asking for your opinion. And so you must give a well-structured and organized opinion. Give your opinion, support it with at least a couple reasons and a little bit of supporting detail. All right, just the same way that you write an academic essay in part 3. Okay, so that's the format. That's it. You take the test, you get your score back. I always forget if it's in 11 days or 12 days. I never remember, but that's it. Okay. Any questions about the format? No? Good. All right. Let's talk about the scoring. I'm going to do a screen share with you here. Again, you guys have any questions about any of this stuff, I will answer them at any time. Okay. Now, here we go. I'm showing you, I know it's very small. I'm going to zoom in. I just want to show it to you in its entirety because I want you to understand this. It's like a grid. There's 4 categories, the columns down, and then the band scores 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are here on the left. The top is 9. Okay, now this is the official British Council IELTS public version of the band descriptors. They use this when they score your test. Because I was trained by an actual certified IELTS instructor, you're really not supposed to see it, but I have seen their copy. It is exactly like this, except much, much more detailed, with very specific things like uses passive, uses perfect tense, uses a relative clause, uses a comparative, superlative, much, much more very specific details. Okay, but the thing is, how this scoring works is if you're in, maybe you got part of this some elements of this score and some elements of this score, okay, you'll get maybe a 5.5, but you can't jump up. You've got to, in other words, all right, you've got to go all the way up. If you're halfway here, that means you're not going to get a 6. You're going to get maybe a 5.5. This up to blue here, the bottom one here is a 5. So if you're okay, so if this is as far up in the categories, even if you get 1 or 2 things up in the top category, you know, in the first column you'd get a 5, in the second a 5.5, in the third a 6, in the fourth a 6. If you see what I mean, you've got to fill up the box to attain that band score. If something's missing, then you didn't fill up the box, and there's no way you can get that band score or above. You can get a half a band score below, but no way above, if you get my drift. So it's very important to know what they need. So let me zoom this baby in a little. All right. First of all, the 4 areas that they're scoring: fluency and coherence. Okay, I'll talk about that in a minute. Lexical resource, that's vocabulary. Grammatical range and accuracy, that's grammar. Pronunciation, that's pronunciation. That's it. Starting with fluency and coherence. The main points. There's a lot of other little detailed things on their scoring sheet. You don't worry about that, really. The main thing is fluency and coherence is actually 2 different things. Fluency refers to how you speak without pauses, long pauses, short pauses, repetition. Do you repeat? Self-correction. Are you nice and smooth when you speak? And pacing. So many people they're panicking, so they talk very fast because they're really, really stressed out and they're really, really worried about what their score is going to be. That would affect your fluency. Quite probably it would affect your pronunciation as well, because you would mispronounce words and your intonation would be off. But in any case, it would affect your fluency. That's pretty straightforward. Okay. All right. Okay, you see, for example, regarding that, up here at level 7, here, I'm going to zoom in a little more even. Okay, see the middle bullet point. May demonstrate language-related hesitation. You're trying to think of a word, for example. At times, or some repetition, and or self-correction. You see where that is. Okay. All right. Number 5, level 5, produces simple speech fluently, simple sentences, but when it gets more complicated, it gets confused. Maintains a flow of speech, but needs to repeat themselves or self-correct themselves in order to keep going, or speaking really, really slow. That's level 5. So you can kind of see how that scales up. The other part is coherence, which is, for me, again, my opinion, probably the most important element of the test for you to focus on as the test taker. Why? Why? Because it ends up affecting all the other areas of scoring. It's the one thing that actually really affects all the way across the board. Okay, what is that? All right. Okay. Let's look way down here at 4. All right. Links basic sentences, but with repetitious use of simple connectives and some breakdowns in coherence. All right. Mixed up sentences where the words aren't in the right place. That's the breakdowns in coherence. Okay, links basic sentences with repetition repetitious use of simple connectives, you use the same either connector like because, or you use the same exact linking words. For example, every question you answer, you say, first of all, well, first of all, first of all, first off, every time. You need to learn a range of these connectives. These connectives, or discourse markers, are things like, I guess I would have to say that the first thing I find fascinating about art is another thing, okay, another thing, one thing I have to say, in addition, simple things like using adverbs like honestly, actually, in reality, frankly, honest. Okay, I said honestly already. All right, using these to start sentences. All of these things. Starting sentences, not just speaking, but using these little connective discourse markers and using signal phrases, using on one hand, but on the other hand, to signal that you're giving contrasting information. Okay? Saying, well, in my perspective, to indicate you're about to give your opinion. All right. If you're telling a story, which part 2, you're likely going to be telling a story, you use the right kind of connectors. And after that, later on, and I guess it was probably a couple of hours later, using these kinds of discourse markers that clarify and organize your speech. These are extremely important. Not only is it directly scored in this first category of scoring, but because you have to use a variety, it will add to your vocabulary score. And because when you use these, it forces you, without even thinking about it for a second, it forces you to use more complex sentences, sentence constructions, which will help your grammar score. And in addition, notice how I said that? And in addition, when you use these types of markers, you have to alter your intonation and add much higher level pauses and different degrees of stress, which they most certainly want to hear in the area of pronunciation. So this act of actually using a range of connectives and discourse markers is going to help you flat out all the way across the board in every category. Okay, and here I need to point out one very important aspect of the scoring. If you speak simple sentences only, basic information, you're not going to get a very good score. You know, you're going to get a 4 probably. Okay, let's look how this progresses up. We looked at 4 already. Links basic sentences with repetitious use of connectives. Okay, 5. Okay, may overuse certain connectives and discourse markers. So your range is a little better, in other words. Okay, here up at 6. Uses a range of connectives and discourse markers, but not always appropriately. You use a range, an acceptable range, but you make a lot of mistakes. This idea runs throughout the IELTS speaking. The concept that if you don't do it at all, you get a 4. If you do it, but you only do the ones you know, or if you do the bare minimum, you get a 5. If you attempt to do it, but you make a lot more mistakes, you get a 6. Even though technically speaking, you're making more mistakes, you're attempting more complex, much higher level English. IELTS will reward you for that. This is the huge difference between IELTS and a number of these other standardized tests like TOEFL and TOEIC. They do not reward you for making mistakes. IELTS, in fact, does. They want you to try as many things as you can, and they will reward you for doing so. Look at 7. Uses a range of connectives and discourse markers with some flexibility. Okay. You can do it. All right. Okay, now up at 8 and 9, they're talking about adding a lot of detail, which is extremely important. You're not just answering questions, but you need to add a lot of detail. This is how you get an 8 or 9. Develops the topic fully. That means you add extra details like examples, drawing in references, making comparisons to be able to add more information to your opinions and to what you're saying. Okay. Hopefully you can see how that works. Lexical Resource. There are 3 really main elements. Notice down here at 4. First big element near the bottom half of the scoring grid is paraphrasing. Do you know what paraphrasing is? Gina, do you know what paraphrasing is?
Yes, I know. I think it is when you explain something, you don't use directly a term, but you explain the concept.
Yeah, using the
with other
question.
words.
Yeah, using the question as a basis. All right, let's try it, Gina. For example, do you like dogs? It's real simple. Okay, how could I paraphrase that? How could you paraphrase it, I should say?
Okay. I like dogs very much. I had a dog.
Okay.
Who was named Stilly. He was of little size, and I describe, no?
Yes, that's it. I like dogs very much is a very basic paraphrase. Yes, you got it. Thank you, Gina. Good demonstration. It's very easy to paraphrase using a quantifier. There are many things I like about dogs. Oh, there are numerous things I could tell you about dogs that I really love, and a few that I don't like so much. Okay, that's a much more elaborate paraphrase. You see? So you paraphrase, then you get into, put a period on it, end the sentence, then you get into your reasons and details after that. But that's it. That's the basic concept right there. If you don't do it, you get a 3. If you do it only once or twice in the test, you get a 4. All right. Number 5, you try to paraphrase, but with mixed success. What they're saying when they say mixed success, that means you fail, and you probably mess it up half the time or more. Level 6, generally paraphrases successfully. Okay, that means over 50% of the time. So if you don't do it, you get a 4. You're stuck in that box. That's why I showed you all those boxes in the beginning. If you do it, but you blow it, you get it wrong, you go up to a 5. You qualify for a 5. If you get it right half the time, you get a 6. And if you get it right almost all the time, you get a 7. If you know when to do it and when not to do it, you get an 8. Uses paraphrase effectively as required. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to paraphrase. Okay. So again, with that same underlying, you see that same underlying assumption here that they're going to give you a better score for trying, for pushing yourself to do your utmost and show your widest range of English. All right. So there you go. That's one aspect, paraphrasing. Another one is vocabulary for a variety of topics. Don't worry, they're going to give you a variety of topics for you to show off your stuff, so you don't have to worry about that. You really don't. This is just a matter of learning a lot of general vocabulary that directly results to topics. There's really nothing much to study here or to really think about during the exam. you know, if you can talk about everything, you'll be okay. That's kind of in the middle range of the scoring. Now, in the upper range, what I was telling Anna Carolina earlier. All right, where are we? Okay. Up in the upper levels here, 7, 8, 9. All right, middle bullet point here. Uses some less common and idiomatic vocabulary, some awareness of style, collocation, things like, oh my gosh, that's awareness of style, okay? And again, with some inappropriate choices. You use an idiom and you do it wrong. If you use an idiom, you do it wrong, you get a 7. If you don't, guess what? You cannot get a 7. You cannot get above a 6 if you don't do it at all. It is required to get a good score. And moving up, uses less common and idiomatic vocabulary with only occasional inaccuracies. You know, level 9, top best score. You use idiomatic language naturally and accurately. Idiomatic language does not only include actual idioms, but also being able to use metaphor to give an analogy. Oh, my father's like a rock. He's so strong and he's so, you know, sturdy. Even I threw in, you know, sturdy. That's natural speaking. That is colloquial language, and awareness of style. They're talking about colloquial native speaker language and collocation. Collocation, things like my dad was a heavy smoker. Not my dad smoked many cigarettes. My dad smoked many cigarettes is a 6. My dad was a heavy smoker automatically makes you a 7, 8, or 9. If you see the difference. Using the collocations that native speakers naturally use. Yeah. Using idioms, you guys who come to my idioms classes, good for you. This is really going to help you if you do end up taking the IELTS test. For sure. Okay. Grammatical range and accuracy. All right. There's kind of 3 things. Okay. General errors are more or less cumulative. By general errors, I am referring to articles conjugating the verb, things like mixing up where the adverb goes in a sentence, wrong articles, wrong conjunctions, wrong pronouns, things of that nature. The little things, the little grammar pesky errors. You can get away with a few of these, and it's not that big a deal, but they are kind of cumulative. If you do it every sentence, you never get an article right, and every preposition is wrong, it will end up dragging down your score. Okay? The 2 other big things, one is construction of sentences. You need to use a mix, and this is true both in speaking and writing. That is simple sentences, subject, verb, and that's it. Subject, verb sentences, simple sentences, compound sentences, 2 simple sentences joined together, compound, complex sentences, sentences that include a subordinate clause, and compound complex sentences. So again, as long as you're using discourse markers, you're likely going to do this quite naturally. And this is kind of toward the bottom. Okay, well, here we go. What is this, 4? Yeah, it's 4. All right. Produces basic sentence forms and some correct simple sentences, but subordinate structures are rare. If you spoke perfect English, but all simple sentences, you're going to end up with getting a 4 on this exam. They want you to go for it and show as much variety of English as you can. Their job as the interviewer is to try to make that easy for you to do. When they ask you a question, it is not really about getting the answer. to the question. It's about trying to afford you the ability to speak in a future tense, to use a conditional sentence, to do some comparisons so that you can do comparative and contrasting discourse markers and language. The whole way they design the test is to get their thinking about those elements. They could care less about your opinions or what you like or don't like. They don't care. That's irrelevant. I used to do a lot of testing of students in the academy, and frankly, a student would say to me after their test, "What did you think about my opinion on the economics of my country?" And I would say, "What? I have no idea. That's not what I was listening for. I don't even know what your opinion of the economics of your country is. I don't even know. That's not what I'm listening for. I'm listening for elements of your grammar, your pronunciation, your intonation, how you organize, what you actually say. I don't even hear it when I'm scoring your test. It doesn't even register in my brain, and I'm sure this is exactly the same. Not just for this test, for all of these standardized tests. What you say is not really anywhere near as important as how you say it. Okay. Again, the same thing. If you try more complicated things and you make frequent mistakes. Look at this as we go up the ladder. Makes frequent mistakes with complex structures, but I can still understand what you're saying. That's more mistakes than the lower score. Okay? Sincerely, up to like level 6, you can make a lot more. If you're making more mistakes, you're probably doing better. Okay, up at level 7, that's where frequently produces error-free sentences. Some mistakes persist. Okay. The other thing they're quite concerned with in the area of grammar is your verb tenses. They need to hear past, present, future. They need to hear you use a continuous, a perfect. You don't have to use every verb tense. That would, heaven forbid, that would be virtually impossible. But an example, sometime during the test, of 1 or 2 or 3 perfect tenses, couple of continuous tenses, a passive, use of passive somewhere in the exam. They've got to hear that you can do those things. That's the range that they're looking for. That's the other big element. That's another thing you can think about as they're asking the questions. What are they really asking for me? Part of what they're asking is they're asking for a specific verb tense, because they will ask you the question in that verb tense. You just need to, again, kind of paraphrase it, mimic it back. Pronunciation is pronunciation. Don't worry about accent. One big hint, your accent really doesn't affect the exam. One big hint, some people believe that if they speed up their pacing, that will eliminate their accent. Actually, that's exactly wrong. Actually, slowing down a little bit helps eliminate accent problems. Okay, here, where is this? 8. L1, that's language 1. Accent has minimal effect on intelligibility. It's all about, can I understand you? Not, is your accent, are you saying a short E slightly different than, that doesn't really matter. Of course, it really shouldn't matter, because a British person and an American person and a Canadian person and an Australian person all have different short E's, for example. So that's really nothing. Basically, until you get to the upper echelon of scoring, it just has to do with how many words that you speak that they don't know what you said because of mispronunciation. Really, I know that I am actually oversimplifying this category. It also includes stress, syllable stress, and intonation. You've got to speak with some kind of intonation. Please don't speak like a robot, otherwise you'll never get out of band 5. If you just speaking like, if you're nervous and you're robot talking it, you're not going to get above a 5 in this category. You've got to be able to have some kind of show that you have the basics of intonation. All right, the cool stuff only gets really near the top, what they call here pronunciation features. All right, what pronunciation features, what they're talking about are things like liaisons, and the man said to me, "What you doing?" Whatcha? Not what are you doing, but whatcha doing. That's native speaker. Reduced pronunciation. That's how you get an 8 or a 9 in the pronunciation category. By showing you know how to do liaisons, joining sounds, using glides, using ellipsis, things like saying chocolate instead of chocolate, or comfortable instead of comfortable. That's how you get an 8 or 9 in reality. They want you to sound like a native speaker. So making even grammatical mistakes that native speakers make actually puts you in the 8 or 9 area, because that's, you know, that's the way a native speaker speaks. So even if you're making the same errors in colloquial style language that native speakers make, that's actually going to help your score, not hurt you. Even though it's not what the textbooks say, if that's the way native speakers speak, then that's the way you should be speaking. Okay. Whew. All right, that was a lot of jabbering. Any questions before I continue with my top 10 tips? Okay, let me, again, any questions, just interrupt me. I know I tend to just keep talking. I get so excited. All right, my top 10 tips. Drum roll, please.
It's a big program.
What's that?
It's a big program.
Well, what do you mean?
Yeah.
It's a big program.
I think it's very intricate, you know, to respect all these rules.
It's very intricate, and that's why I tell everybody you need to study for 3 months.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's intricate. But if you want to keep it basic, keep it basic. Just remember to use a few idioms. The biggest thing, all right, here, well, we're going to see it on my tips, but all right, well, here we go. Make sure you're using those discourse markers, those connectives and linking words and phrases. That will automatically bump your score like 1 to 2 band scores. Really, that's the biggest thing. Don't panic. You need to sound normal. I've already covered that. Nobody cares about what you say. It's how you say it. Here's another big tip. The magic number is 2. Just plant it in your head. You're going to talk about 2 things. 2 supporting reasons, 2 conditions, 2 examples, 2 different aspects of the question. Really helps to say, you know, do you like to go to the movies? Well, it depends. When you say it, when it depends, I'm automatically forcing myself to think about 2 different things. It depends. If I have time and I'm not too busy, I enjoy relaxing at the movie theater. In addition, there has to be something which I think would be worth seeing. I'm not going to go watch some stupid, silly love movie, which I have no interest in. On the other hand, I'm usually way too busy to go to the movies, so I end up downloading something, or I have HBO at home and I just flip on the old boob tube and relax with a cold one and maybe some popcorn at home and watch a movie. Okay? I've forced myself to talk about 2 aspects. 2 is the magic number. I just said this. Use discourse markers. Really, it should be number 1. It helps you all through. Keep talking. There's no penalty for talking too much. If you're talking too much, there's no negative points. The interlocutor will just stop you. You will get creamed for talking too little. You will get butchered if you have to talk, if you do not talk enough. Yes, people who are talkative actually tend to do better in reality. They really do. The kind of person who never stops talking actually tends to do fairly well on the IELTS exam. You know, they just do. They have that natural ability. Understand the question. Okay. There are no penalties. This is an important point for asking for clarification, like saying, do you mean blah, blah, blah? Do you mean, do I like to go to the cinema, or do I just like watching movies in general? If you ask that question, actually you can gain points, but you can't lose points. However, if they say, do you enjoy movies, and you start talking about watching cartoons when you were a child, those aren't movies. You're off topic, and that is going to cost you. So make sure you understand the question, because if you don't, it's not going to hurt you to clarify with the interviewer. Always answer why. To help yourself, think of detail. Again, when we looked at the scoring, in several of those categories, well, a couple of them anyway, vocabulary and cohesion and fluency, you might have noticed that it's about can speak at length, can speak in great detail, can speak with a comprehensive answer. That's all about details. As you brainstorm answers in your head, if you get stuck, which you will, the biggest question is why. Why do I say this? Why did I say that? When, where, who, what? Question, Christian, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. You must have the level C1 for this exam. You know, the level, the minimum level.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, the European model level. No, there are no rules. Anybody can take this test, even if you don't speak a word of English, but of course you're going to have a terrible score. I, personally, Christian, I recommend C1. I would.
Okay.
In my opinion, it's a good idea. Yes. So it's not a bad question. C1 is about the level where you're going to end up getting scores that are going to be useful to you, Christian. People take this test for different reasons. Different people need different scores. To get a working visa for Australia, 5.5 is good enough, okay? But to get a master's degree at Oxford, you need to be getting an 8 in every category. There's a big difference. It all depends on why you are personally taking the test and what are your goals. All right? Somebody with a C1 is not likely going to get an overall 8. But, you know, yeah, so there's no absolute here, okay, as far as that, but I personally recommend any intermediate. Okay. All right. Any intermediate can take this test. You're wasting your time if you're a beginner, quite honestly. Okay. Give examples from your own experience. Talk about yourself. If you like to talk about yourself, you'll do pretty well on this test. There are even some trap questions. Some questions seem extremely stupid, actually, because they're so terribly, horribly general in nature. But that's actually a trap. They actually want you to talk in detail. And the easiest way to talk in detail and to talk with confidence is to talk about yourself and tell little stories about yourself as a way of describing or giving examples. It's really the easiest thing to do, and it's actually what they want you to do. They ask a question which sounds extremely general. It's a trick. They don't want you to try speaking extremely general because native speakers never do. We always speak in specifics and give specific examples. Native speakers don't even know how to speak in general. Really, it's a trick. It's a trap. Beware of that. Ignore it. Just use your detail. Talk about yourself. If you get stuck thinking about what to say, ask yourself why. Why? It's like the children's thing, Daddy, why is the grass green? Because it has chlorophyll. Why? Because chlorophyll helps the plant build food from the sun. Why? Because the sun provides energy, and energy will help this particular life form to live. Why? I don't know why. Okay, if you keep asking yourself why, you can talk forever, just like when your 5-year-old does the same thing to you. Why is the sky blue? You can basically talk forever.
Okay.
All right. Beware of close-ended questions. It's a trap. It's another trap. Here's a great place to say, well, it depends. Questions like, questions that start with do or are or whatever. Yeah, I'm a little bit over time. Let me quickly do the last couple. Choose the best answer. The best answer is not what the real answer is. The best answer is whatever you can talk the most about. You can, which brings me to the last point, lie your face off, lie. No one's going to check your facts or your references. No one cares if you're making up information. It's how you're speaking, not what you say. So if you're stuck, lie. You don't have to tell them the truth about yourself or nothing at all. I love it when I know a student will do well when in practice I'm working with them and they can lie to me and I don't know. I have to say, did you really juggle 3 cats while riding a unicycle? When I don't know if they're telling me the truth or not, that's a good sign. That means they're probably going to get a decent score. Okay, thank you. I know, today, me, too much talking. Tomorrow's class, your turn. I get to just listen and then give you feedback. So, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care.
Bye-bye.
See you guys again soon. Have a good day. Good evening. Bye.